So you're never really dealing with like a leather glove. You're always dealing with bones with this guy. So
Yeah,
it's very difficult to get past some of those things.
that's a good
And
way to put it. I'm stealing that one.
yeah, go ahead. You know you got this.
What's up, everybody? Laura Sanko here, as always, joined by my co-host, the great Dean Thomas, host of After Tough, coach's voice in between rounds or during the fight, I should say, for pay-per-views. I mean, the man does it all. And he is joining me, as he always does, very generous with his time, and I appreciate it, to talk about UFC 290. And we're going to talk about the main event right now, but this is the card of the year. This is International Fight Week. It's in Las Vegas. It's at T-Mobile Arena. And we've got a couple of really interesting title fights to talk about. So, Dean, I guess we'll just dive right into it. What are your initial thoughts? Like, what was your take, I guess, when you first heard about this matchup? We'll dive into the details, but what's your take on this fight?
And that I'm assuming you're talking about
I am
Yair
sorry. I
and
probably should have set
Volkanovski.
that up better.
Yeah.
You know, you're a way better host than I am, Dean.
No, it's not. No, it's not that. That's the big fight. It should be that one. But then I thought maybe she's talking about Pantoja and Moreno. But I said, nah,
No,
she's got to be talking
I
about.
am in fact, and I should have done a better job setting up. I am in fact talking about Alex Volkanovski defending his featherweight title against interim champion Yair Rodriguez. And of course, Alex going for his 6th title defense if he gets it done. Yair looking to make it a undisputed title. So a lot on the line for both these guys for sure.
So this is not a gimme fight for Volkanovski. I do think he's the best fighter in the world right now. And I think that on any given night, like he should be able to beat most guys the majority of the time. The problem with a guy like Yair Rodriguez is he's dangerous and he can win any time as well. Maybe just not as reliably as a guy like Volkanovski.
Mm-hmm.
But they're only going to fight once, maybe twice if Yair wins.
Mm-hmm.
And Yair has a good, legitimate shot. Like he is that dangerous and that dynamic and has that switch to be able to turn your switch off.
Yeah.
So that's what stands out to me in this fight. I'm like, I'm really interested to see in this fight because we're going to learn a lot about both guys. And in Volkanovski, this could really solidify him as one of the great. I mean, he already is one of the greats, but like just really cement his name in the record books.
1,000%, I agree with you. And as I was kind of thinking about it too, that's very similar to what you said. It's almost like it's really hard to analyze Alex because as an analyst, at least the way I look at things, I try to figure out, okay, who's probably the favorite or the more dominant fighter. And then you try to find holes in their game and figure out how the other guy or gal could exploit those holes. Usually an A side and a B side. And this fight, Volkanovski is the A side, but it's really, really hard to find holes in his game. But when you think about the type of fighter that could come along and potentially find a hole that we maybe don't even know about or create a hole in a way that other fighters just aren't capable of doing, that fighter is Yair Rodriguez. Like it's almost going to take someone, it's going to take a wild card. I said this on the broadcast last weekend, like it's going to take a wild card because Alex Volkanovski is that good everywhere. But Yair Rodriguez is so incredibly dangerous. And I guess that's my next question is when you look at Yair, separate from how you think he matches up with Volkanovski necessarily, like what stands out with you? What do you think makes Yair so special?
Just his ability to hurt people.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, his ability to hurt people. So the great Igor Vovchanchyn once said, I don't even know if I'm saying his name right, but it would be surprising if I wasn't. But he said that everybody's weakness is their chin, right? So like, and that's true. Like everybody, if you're fresh, the better man typically wins. But if you're not fresh, if you get hurt, then you're not as good as you always are. Yair Rodriguez has the ability to hurt you and take you out of your game. So he can do that to anybody in the world. So skill for skill, Volkanovski is the better fighter. But if Yair is able to hurt him with a body kick or a flashy kick and just catch him slipping, because Volkanovski's not a perfect fighter. He's a great fighter, but not a perfect fighter.
Exactly.
If he gets caught one time, Yair has the ability to put him away.
Well, and that's kind of like what he did to Josh Emmett.
Exactly. I mean, I think he's the better fighter between him and Josh Emmett, but that's exactly my case in point. Like he was able to put Josh away because he was able to hurt him.
Yeah.
That body kick.
Yeah, and it's not just, we've seen we've seen flashy fighters before, but a lot of times the flash is there, but it's pretty ineffective. Or, maybe one flashy thing that they do is effective, and they do that one flashy thing really well. And I literally cannot think of another example of a fighter who fights the way Yair Rodriguez does, and everything he does could be effective, right? And I feel like that has only developed over time. Like I think, like back when he fought Frankie Edgar, it was a lot of flash and not necessarily a lot of form. And there wasn't always purpose to what he was doing. He was doing really cool stuff. And he was always an exciting guy that you would want to fight. And you still had the same feeling of like, oh, if he gets him, if he catches him right, he could hurt him. But now I feel like with this with the Josh Emmett fight in particular, there is such a purpose to everything that he does, even though it's still crazy looking and stuff that you rarely see in an MMA fight. And it's certainly not, you certainly don't see it stitched together the way that Yair stitches it together. Like you might see a guy that'll throw a rolling thunder, but not a guy that will throw a rolling thunder intentionally in the middle of a round, knowing what his next move is after it, if that makes sense. And Yair's that guy.
Well, and not only that, but so what Volkanovski is good at doing is neutralizing the offense of his opponents. He makes moves and stays in the right spot. He controls the octagon very well so that he stays safe just with foot placement. Like he's always good about doing that against opponents. But Yair is a difficult guy to stay safe from because he's so dynamic from everywhere.
Yeah.
He fights from different stances. He throws every attack from different angles. He's going to be very difficult for Volkanovski to find a place where he's safe. He's not going to be able to find a place where he's safe using his feet.
Yeah.
His defense can't make a mistake. He can't make a mistake defensively.
I completely agree with you because Yair is coming from all angles at all times and with a purpose. And the other one thing that kind of stuck out to me, and it may seem granular to bring this up, and maybe it won't have an effect in the fight, but Volkanovski obviously very used to having to overcome height differences, and he has extremely long arms for his height. So sometimes even have, I want to say he even had like an inch on max, or at least they were equal, but obviously a big height difference. He has never fought a kicker the level of Yair Rodriguez, and he's never fought a guy with a 42-inch leg, which is what Yair has.
Whoa, take it easy.
What's that?
Take it easy.
42-inch
leg.
42-inch leg. We're getting in the weeds.
Take it easy.
We're getting in the weeds. I was researching people's legs.
Yeah, wow.
But they have a significant difference in the length of their legs. And it does matter in this fight because of the way that Yair kicks, and because he'll kick at the very end of a combination. And as Alex is maybe trying to move away and move out of range, he may be out of boxing range. He may be out of most people's kicking range, but he may still be in Yair's kicking range. It's just a thought that occurred to me as I was looking at some of their stats. Speaking of stats, let's talk about those real quick. Let me run through the tail of the tape. All right, so we've got Alex Volkanovski versus Yair Rodriguez. Alex 12-1 in the UFC. The one loss obviously up at 155, so it's almost kind of doesn't count. Yair Rodriguez 10-2 with 1 no contest. Alex actually has a ½ inch on Yair in reach, 71.5 versus 71, both orthodox. Alex 34 to Yair's 30 years in age. And then when you get into like the main stats and how they match up, the ones that really jump off the page, let's see here. I remember whom. Yeah, Volkanovski 56.6% striking accuracy to 46 for Yair, which is probably understandable considering the types of strikes he's throwing. Strikes landed per minute higher for Volkanovski, which I forget how high volume a guy he is. 6.35 compared to 4.78 for Yair. Defense is 59.3% for Volkanovski, 53.3 for Yair. The other one that jumps off the page, Volkanovski, tremendous takedown defense at 69.2%, 63.8% takedown defense for Yair, which I thought was pretty high. Not perfect, of course, but pretty high. And we all know he's got great submissions off his back. They
Yeah, I didn't
both,
think it was that high.
yeah, I know. They both target the body pretty similarly. Roughly 60% to the head, 11% to the body for Volk, 18% to the body for Yair. A lot of that I'm sure is his kicks. And then excuse me, roughly 25% to the leg. Nothing, honestly, nothing too crazy to write home about in terms of those statistics. So Alex Volkanovski has 6 knockdowns and has been knocked down once according to official stats, and Yair has 3 and has never been knocked down. So apparently quite the chin, considering he's been in that crazy battle with Max Holloway. He's been in some real battles. Back to the fight itself though. What do you feel like was the biggest, what did you learn about Volkanovski from the Makhachev fight?
I mean, just that he just adapts really well. He's a gamer, and you gotta love a guy like that. You gotta admire a fighter like that who can just adapt. But outside of that, I learned that he's also human. Not the fact that he lost, but the fact that there were times in the fight that he got emotional, and I think he lost because he got emotional.
Mm.
And he doesn't normally get emotional in fights. Normally, he's a very work-oriented, disciplined, focused fighter. But there were times in that fight where you saw him like, "Come on, come," And I thought he made mistakes because of that. And I thought that was the reason he may have lost the fight. I don't see him getting emotional in this fight. I don't see him taking this fight personally. I think that because he was the underdog moving up in weight, that gave him a little bit of a chip on his shoulder that he felt he had to be a certain type of fighter. But this fight, I think he's going to be true to form. He's going to stay himself and just fight that very disciplined, work oriented, A, B, and C, get the job done type fight.
What do you think is Yair's best path to victory in terms of a game plan?
Well, the one thing I think about Yair's best path to victory is one thing he's kind of gotten away from, to be honest with you. And that was using a little bit more movement.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at some of his other fights, like as in the last couple of years, like the Korean Zombie and a few in his other ones, like, and even with Josh Emmett, I mean, he was kind of in the pocket for a little too long, which is why Josh Emmett caught him a little bit. And I think that he's going to have to move his feet a little bit more because he's got to worry about that takedown threat. That's, to me, the key in this fight for Alexander Volkanovski is that threat of the takedown and the takedown. And if Yair stays in range for him to be grabbed, he won't be able to get off like he normally does. And he won't be able to find that shot that he needs in order to change the course of the fight.
Yeah. Do you imagine him staying at kicking range as much as possible, moving, keeping at the end of that kicking range?
I think that's his. So, and this what makes him so dangerous, right? Like he doesn't really even need a strong punching range. He doesn't.
Yeah.
Even though he does have one, he doesn't need it because he has such a strong kicking range, and it forces guys to try to rush forward to beat that, and then he catches you with elbows, which are worse than punches.
Sandwich. It's a violent sandwich. You got the kicks, and then as soon as you I'm gonna get past the kicks, I'm gonna I can handle them in the boxing. It's like no. You're gonna run right into an elbow or a knee or
right. So you're never really dealing with like a leather glove. You're always dealing with bones with this guy. So it's very difficult to get past some of those things.
That's a good way to put it. I'm stealing that one.
Yeah, go ahead. You know you got this. But once he's in your face, man, if he just moves his feet a little more and he's switching stances and just being extremely dynamic like that, he's hard to deal with. He's going to be hard. Even for a guy like Volkanovski, I think Volkanovski's even going to be a little frustrated at times if Yair moves his feet.
Yeah. And for Volkanovski, I assume you imagine him pushing the grappling and looking to make this a little bit more of a ground-oriented fight.
Oh, absolutely. Volkanovski, I think, beats him in a grappling match, right? I think that obviously, Yair is probably better off of his back as a grappler, but still not good enough to submit a guy like Volkanovski. But I think Volkanovski is the better grappler. I think if he takes him down, I think his ground and pound is underrated. His top control is going to be the key to this fight once he gets it down. And Yair's not. Yeah, when I look at Yair, he doesn't strike me as like a guy who's really good at getting back to his feet.
Yeah.
So, and I don't expect him to do that. I expect him to stay on the ground and try to be violent off of his back and throw up submissions. But I think the Volkanovski will shut that down and just rely on that to his path of victory.
Do you have a pick? Do you want to have a pick or no?
Of course. Come on now. Listen, I'm not Alan Joe Band. You know, we make fun of Alan because Alan be like, sometimes I think
That's me.
listen,
That's me.
yeah.
That's me. I'm going to pick the other guy when I start out with like, I think the world of so-and-so. He is amazing. However,
See, and you do that because you know when you run into them,
yeah,
they can be like, "Yo,
yeah," because they hit you up on Instagram, and you're like, "I'm so sorry. I really do like you. I just didn't think you were gonna win the fight."
I know I'm past all that now. I don't give a damn. You know what I'm saying? Like people,
That's why
I don't care.
Show.
I'm past all that. So I'm telling you right now, Alexander Volkanovski is a true champion. He's a legit champion. He's good at what he does, and he wins the fights that he's supposed to. He's the greatest 145-pound fighter we've seen. He's going to win this fight because he's supposed to win this fight. The fights that he won't win are the ones that he's not supposed to, and that's not going to happen for a while. So Alexander Volkanovski rolls. He wins by decision. He's not going to be able to get Yair out of there, but he's going to win by decision. He's going to win 4 of the 5 rounds.
Love it. That's a strong prediction. Before I let you go, only because you said it, and only because I know it's going to come up on the weigh-in show, and I'm anxious to get your thoughts in the can on this. We don't have to spend a ton of time, but where do you put Alex Volkanovski in terms of featherweights all time?
Number 1.
Above Aldo?
Yeah.
I do too. And I feel like because it's Kamaru and it's DC, I feel like they're going to absolutely all over me for that. But I really do feel that way. Aldo has more title defenses, but he beat Jose, not at his prime, but he beat him. He beat Max 3 times. And I don't know. I don't know how to make the argument. Help me make the argument.
Well, he beat Max 3 times. He beat Aldo. Max beat Aldo twice. So I mean, like, how can you not make the argument? But the biggest argument is this. And I'm gonna tell you like this. Aldo won and had his reign in an era where it was easier to do it.
That was gonna be my point.
Yeah. Yep. The era in which Aldo did it was easier to do than what Volkanovski is doing right now.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It was easier to have 10 wins back then.
Yeah. And if he wins on Saturday, Volk is going to be at 6 title defenses. Aldo had 8. I still believe, I don't know.
Listen, if Volk was fighting back then, Volk would have had 16.
100%. 100%.
So, I mean, that's just the way it is. Like, sometimes we forget about errors.
On the show, I'm going to be like, listen, Dean Thomas and I had this conversation, and Dean Thomas agrees with me.
Well, so, Usman, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's my dog sometimes, but sometimes, man, I'll be making fun of him too much. I do my impersonation of Kamaru, and my character is Kimura Usman. And he laughs about it, but he laughs about it. But you know what I'm saying? When he see me, he always grabs me by the throat, though. Would you say about me, dog?
I love your Kamaru impressions. I do. Please don't ever stop. Please.
Nah, no one can stop me.
Well, I appreciate your input on that too. And as always, I thank you for your time. Stick around, guys. We are going to talk about the co-main event as well. So keep an eye out for that video, and we'll see you there.